So, usually when we talk about superheroes, there's this underlying expectation of just, like, pristine perfection.
Right, totally.
You picture a marble statue, you know. You look up in the sky, you see the cape flapping in the wind, the bright primary colors.
The classic Boy Scout image.
Exactly. And it functions as this beacon of absolute, unwavering morality. It feels clean.
Yeah.
And, well, it's comforting to have saviors presented as well-adjusted gods who just always know exactly the right thing to do.
Sure, it's safe.
But then you watch the trailer for the upcoming DC Studios movie Supergirl, which is releasing this June 26th, and wow, that marble statue is just completely shattered.
Oh, shattered into a million pieces.
Right. We're looking at a cinematic landscape that is messy, raw, and honestly just thoroughly steeped in tragedy.
It really functions as like an absolute subversion of the traditional superhero mythos.
Yeah.
Anyone walking into this film expecting a standard shiny cape and cowl blockbuster is going to be caught entirely off guard.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the primary influence here is the critically acclaimed 2021 comic series written by Tom King with art by Bilquis.
Which is phenomenal, by the way.
It is. And to understand the visual language of this trailer and ultimately what this movie is trying to say, you have to look past the heat vision and the galactic flights.
Right. You have to look directly at profound grief.
Exactly. The core engine of this story is just trauma.
Which is a massive pivot for the studio. And our mission for you today on this deep dive is to act as your personal guides.
Yeah, we're going to cut through all that.
Right, cutting through the explosive sci-fi action shots to unpack the hidden Easter eggs, the deep comic lore, and the shockingly dark thematic depth this film is hiding right in plain sight.
There's so much there.
There really is. We are going to figure out how this pivot actually works, starting with the very first shot.
Best place to start.
The trailer wastes zero time establishing Kara's chaotic state of mind. We open on her spaceship, and it is a disaster zone.
It's totally trashed.
Literally junk floating everywhere in zero gravity. A random box of cereal. A bottle of booze drifting lazily in front of a window looking out at a star.
Yeah, not your typical hero lair.
And amidst all this chaos, she is getting a video call on this clunky older model monitor from her cousin, Kal-El Superman himself.
Yeah, and notice the environment on his end of the call, too.
Oh, right.
He's standing in the pristine, gleaming ice crystal interior of the Fortress of Solitude.
It's so clean.
Right. The visual contrast between her squalor and his immaculate setup is highly intentional.
He's checking in, telling her he's worried she's not gonna, quote, find her people if she keeps wandering off-world.
Typical concerned cousin.
It feels exactly like dodging a FaceTime from that golden child sibling who has their entire life perfectly curated,
Yeah.
while you are literally eating dry cereal in bed.
It really does.
What stands out to me, though, is the caller ID on her screen. It just says Clark.
Yes, that is such a great detail.
She is using his secret Earth identity, effectively mocking the hypnoglasses disguise he worked so hard to maintain. She even has the option on screen to mute him.
Which is so funny.
Wait, so she has the option to just mute Superman. Why is she treating him like an annoying, naive little brother? Isn't he supposed to be the older, wiser patriarch of the family?
Well, see, what's fascinating here is the timeline twist, which completely recontextualizes their entire relationship. Kara is actually older than Clark.
Wait, really?
Yeah, she was born first. When their home planet of Krypton suffered its cataclysm, Kara was, she was a 14-year-old girl. Clara was merely an infant.
Oh, wow. I always forget about that age gap.
Yeah, so Kara was placed into a lead-lined pod by her father, Zor-El, but the trajectory and suspension systems of her craft were severely delayed in space.
So she was just stuck out there.
Right, she spent significantly more time in stasis.
Meaning, while baby Kal-El arrived on Earth immediately, became a toddler, and aged normally into a 33-year-old man, Kara was effectively frozen in time.
Precisely. So physically, as we see in the trailer, she appears to be 21.
Right.
Psychologically, however, she carries the actual lived memories and the immense trauma of a dying homeworld.
Which Clark doesn't have at all.
Not even a little. Clark was entirely shielded from that reality. He knows Krypton as, like, a holographic simulation or a bedtime story.
Right, whereas she watched it burn.
He lived the nightmare.
So when he tries to offer her life advice from his ice castle, she is looking at him thinking, you have no fundamental concept of what we actually lost.
Exactly. She's just rolling her eyes.
And the trailer gives us flashes of that loss, particularly her home of Argo City, because the source material establishes that Krypton did not die in a day.
Right, Argo City didn't just vanish in a sudden explosion.
They had a dome, didn't they?
Yeah, a protective dome formed over the city to shield them from the planet's destabilizing core.
But that wasn't exactly a perfect fix.
No, it was a dome that provided a temporary, agonizing delay rather than true salvation. The trailer actually shows the circumference of the energy shield literally slicing through unlucky skyscrapers as it engages.
That visual is terrifying.
It is. And the aftermath was just a drawn-out nightmare. The population of Argo City decreased by 13,000 people after the dome went up.
Just from the immediate fallout.
Yes. And worse, the minerals in the soil were irradiated by the planet's destruction and the exposure to yellow suns.
Oh, so it turned into kryptonite.
Exactly. It turned the ground itself into cancerous kryptonite.
So it wasn't a sudden explosion. It was like sealing yourself in a bomb shelter, only to realize the air filtration system is pumping in carbon monoxide.
That is the perfect analogy.
The very thing designed to save them was slowly killing them.
That is the horrific irony of their survival. The remaining citizens had to toil endlessly, constructing heavy lead shielding just to walk their own streets.
That sounds absolutely miserable.
It was, all while managing severe food shortages, dwindling water supplies, and deadly meteor showers that constantly threatened to breach the dome.
Wow. Okay, before we move off that opening shot of her trash spaceship, though, we really need to talk about that bottle of booze you see floating in the zero gravity.
Oh, yes, the bottle.
Because that isn't just set dressing to show she's depressed, right?
No, not at all. It operates as a subtle yet massive visual foreshadowing.
Okay, lay it on us.
A bottle floating suspended in front of a star heavily suggests the presence of Brainiac.
Wait, Brainiac is the villain infamous for shrinking and bottling cosmic cities, right?
He is, and understanding why he bottles cities is crucial here.
Right.
Brainiac isn't just some random collector. He operates on a twisted logic of cosmic preservation.
Like a museum curator from hell.
Essentially, yeah. He finds a civilization at its absolute peak, shrinks its greatest city into a glass bottle to preserve its knowledge, and then destroys the rest of the planet.
Just so his collection remains utterly unique.
Precisely. The Kryptonian city of Kandor is his most famous victim.
Ah, right.
So seeing that floating bottle is a troubling image that strongly hints at the setup for the massive 2027 sequel event film, Man of Tomorrow.
Man, hiding a universe-building villain tease right next to her breakfast cereal is just brilliant visual storytelling.
It really rewards multiple viewings.
It does. And since Kara's dealing with this intense isolation, like feeling completely disconnected from both Clark and humanity, she really only has one true connection left in the universe.
Her dog, Krypto.
Yes, the best boy.
In this context, a traumatized Kryptonian's best friend.
The trailer shows their initial meeting, and it is devastating.
Oh, it breaks your heart.
We see a 14-year-old Kara in Argo City wearing traditional white robes akin to what Jor-El and Lara wear in classical interpretation.
Very regal, very solemn.
Right. And she is walking in a funeral procession. The funeral is for her mother, Allura, who succumbed to the cancer caused by that irradiated kryptonite soil we just discussed.
Yeah, the grief is just palpable in that scene.
And in the middle of this destitute, heartbreaking moment, she finds Krypto wandering as a filthy stray puppy.
They bond over that shared trauma.
They really do.
They are the only two beings who truly remember the horrors of their diaspora period. You know, those agonizing years wandering the cosmos without a home before they finally reached Earth.
Which elevates their bond far beyond a typical pet and owner dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. They're survivors together.
And that deep bond sets up the inciting incident of the plot. Later in the trailer, a villain named Krem of the Yellow Hills attacks them.
Right.
He shoots Krypto with a poisoned arrow, casually steals Kara's ship, and even takes her cereal bowl on the way out.
Adding insult to injury.
Seriously. Then we are hit with the stakes. Krypto supposedly only has 3 days to live.
The trailer leans heavily into that trope to give the audience a recognizable, visceral hook.
Like a revenge quest for a wounded dog.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because logically that makes zero sense to me. We have an incredibly powerful alien who goes on a reckless, galaxy-spanning rampage alongside a young, human-like girl named Ruthye, all just to get an antidote. Is this just like John Wick in space?
Well, if we look at the source material, there's a massive twist regarding that ticking clock.
Heck.
Krypto isn't actually dying.
Wait, really? The dog is fine.
He's totally fine. Krypto possesses a super canine physiology. He has natural healing abilities that allow him to synthesize and resist the poison, much like Kara herself would.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. In the graphic novel, we learn early on that Krypto is completely safe and comfortably recovering at an alien veterinarian's clinic.
Hold on, if the dog is completely fine, then spending 3 days tearing across the galaxy, risking their lives, is a complete misdirection.
Yep.
She's not looking for an antidote, she is using the quest as a cover.
Look at the companion she brings with her.
Ruthye.
Right. Krem, the villain who shot the arrow, also murdered Ruthie's father.
Ah.
And Ruthye is utterly consumed by rage and is actively seeking Krem's death.
So she wants blood.
Exactly. And Kara recognizes that destructive path. She is going along with this desperate quest to guide this highly impressionable young girl away from the precipice of vengeance.
Oh, wow. So she is basically babysitting a kid who is holding a loaded gun, trying to talk her down before she pulls the trigger.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a story about breaking the cycle of violence.
That is incredible. It changes the entire genre of the narrative from a simple revenge thriller to a profound character study about redemption and mentorship.
It really does.
But that creates a fascinating contradiction, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
If her goal is to teach this girl that violence isn't the answer, why are they tearing through one of the most gritty, hostile, and violent universes imaginable?
That's a great point.
The world building here completely abandons the gleaming spires of Metropolis.
Yeah, the director, Craig Gillespie, has stated we will see 9 different planets and hear 5 distinct languages, including the Kryptonian language, Sunuo.
That is a massive scale.
It is. And these are not utopian sci-fi landscapes.
Definitely not. Kara herself has adopted an incredibly punk rock aesthetic to navigate this underworld.
She looks so cool.
Right. We see her crowd surfing in underground alien raves. She is wearing a vintage Debbie Harry Blondie t-shirt.
Yeah.
And she is rocking out to punk music on a beat-up white 5.5 generation iPod from 2005 with the black touch wheel.
I love that they included the iPod.
It grounds her character so well. She is an alien god, but she is actively clinging to the rebellious angst of human culture she absorbed during her brief time on Earth.
Well, it's a survival mechanism for the environments they are traversing.
Makes sense.
Take Am's asteroid, which appears in the trailer as a junky, smog-covered cloud city.
Looks miserable.
It operates as a towering way station for smugglers trying to stay above the toxic pollutants blanketing the surface below.
Yikes.
Or consider the planet Barren, which presents a massive physical hurdle because it orbits a green sun.
Wait, a green sun? How does that alter her abilities mechanically? Is it just like regular kryptonite?
It's actually much worse. Kryptonian cells function like living solar batteries, absorbing and processing the radiation of a yellow sun to manifest their godlike abilities.
Right.
A green sun emits kryptonite radiation. It doesn't just fail to charge her, it acts like an invasive cellular virus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it displaces the yellow sun energy, effectively suffocating her cells and causing rapid necrosis.
Literally rotting her from the inside.
Exactly. The trailer shows shots of Kara where her veins are darkening, suggesting the ambient radiation of this system is actively stripping away her natural immunity.
That makes the stakes terrifyingly real. She is so vulnerable there.
Extremely.
But speaking of things that might not be entirely real, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look closer at our young companion, Ruthye.
Okay.
In the comic, the inciting incident is relatively straightforward. Krem killed Ruthie's father, who was a rock farmer, leaving an ornate sword in his gut.
Right. Terrible, but a singular murder.
But in this trailer, Ruthye looks Kara in the eye and claims that Krem slaughtered her entire innocent family.
Yes. That discrepancy is one of the most brilliant storytelling devices at play here.
Really? How so?
The comic series is framed from Ruthie's point of view, heavily evoking the narrative style of True Grit.
Oh, I love that comparison.
And because we are seeing this through her eyes, we must consider that she might be an unreliable narrator.
Wait, you were suggesting she is lying to Supergirl to manipulate her.
She may be hyperbolizing her trauma to guarantee Kara's help.
That is so dark.
Think about the psychology of a grieving child. She needs a literal god to join her crusade.
True.
Presenting Krem as an epic, irredeemable monster who wiped out her entire bloodline is significantly more persuasive than admitting it was a localized scuffle that resulted in her father's death.
So she's hyping up the villain to get the hero on board.
The graphic novel depicts Krem as a terrible person, undoubtedly, but perhaps not the apocalyptic conqueror Ruthye builds him up to be in her own mind.
Man, grief and anger can literally rewrite our memories to justify our thirst for retaliation. She is crafting a narrative where her vengeance is righteous.
Exactly. She's making herself the hero of her own tragic myth.
And the trailer leans heavily into that brutal retaliation.
Mhm.
You cannot have a gritty space western without a cantina brawl.
Oh, it's a staple of the genre.
And we get an incredibly visceral one on Anim's asteroid. Kara is protecting Ruthye under a table while she absolutely wrecks a room full of mercenaries.
The choreography completely abandons elegant superhero posturing. It is a desperate, unrefined brawl.
At one point, Kara literally rips a bionic arm off a mercenary and uses it as a baseball bat to bludgeon another guy.
Very Rocket Raccoon style.
It is wild, but the real highlight of this sequence is her teaming up with Jason Momoa's character Lobo.
Yes, fan favorite Lobo.
He rides into action on a space hog motorcycle with a massive skull strapped to the front of it. It's so over the top.
Lobo is a legendary alien mercenary and bounty hunter. He's the last of his species from the planet Zarnia, originally introduced back in 1983.
He looks amazing.
He fully embraces a heavy metal glam rocker aesthetic. But his inclusion in this film is actually a nod to the development history of the story itself.
Oh, really? Yeah, fun behind-the-scenes fact. Tom King originally pitched this entire graphic novel concept as a Lobo story.
Wait, Supergirl wasn't even part of the original pitch?
No, not at all. An editor suggested removing Lobo and pivoting the focus to Supergirl, turning her into the world-weary Rooster Cogburn figure instead.
That is wild.
By putting Jason Momoa's Lobo back into the movie alongside Kara, the director is really honoring the DNA of that scrapped concept.
That's a great tribute. And for the hardcore comic fans, there is a deep-cut Easter egg on Lobo's costume that we need to unpack because of what it implies mechanically for the story.
Oh, the ring.
Yes. If you look closely at Momoa's chest during the bar scene, he is wearing a chain around his neck holding a small container. Inside that container is a red lantern ring.
It's such a brilliant costume detail. It's a direct reference to the 2010 Brightest Day comic storyline, where Atrocitus, the leader of the Red Lantern Corps, gave Lobo a ring as payment for a mercenary job.
But consider why a red lantern ring matters thematically here.
Right, the power source. Green Lantern rings are powered by willpower. Red Lantern rings are fueled purely by profound rage.
They replace the user's heart and literally pump liquid fire through their veins.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So if Kara's entire mission is to babysit Ruthye and cure her of her all-consuming rage, then having Lobo, a wild-card mercenary walking around with a weapon of pure, unadulterated anger around his neck, is a ticking time bomb.
Oh, definitely.
It is a dark mirror held up to Ruthie's emotional state.
It perfectly bridges the physical threats of the universe with the internal emotional threats the characters are facing.
It really does. And when we synthesize all these pieces, the mechanics of the dying planet, the psychological manipulation of memory, the cycle of violence, the musical choices in the trailer begin to make perfect sense.
They're so deliberate.
Early teasers used Blondie's Call Me, which gave the footage a rebellious, empowering energy. But this main trailer shifts gears entirely. It is edited to Jimmy Ruffin's 1966 Motown hit, What Becomes of the Brokenhearted.
A song that explicitly explores the despair and isolation following a profound loss.
Right.
And the agonizing realization that happiness might be an illusion.
It signals to you, the audience, that the core of this movie isn't just badass empowerment. It is a profound lament.
Yeah.
It is an exploration of mourning and how incredibly difficult it is to move forward when your entire foundation has been destroyed.
The visual motifs support that underlying melancholy, too. Throughout the footage, we see a recurring prop, a photograph of Krypto placed inside a Kryptonian device that mimics the mechanics of a Victorian steampunk pocket watch.
It's beautiful, but so sad.
It functions as a literal ticking clock for the narrative, but visually, it anchors Kara to an older, classical era she cannot let go of.
Even the environmental design reflects that decay. The water shown on Argo City is dingy and stagnant. The alien plant life is visibly dying.
And look out for the aggressive recurring contrast of red and blue throughout the film.
Oh, right. The classic Superman colors.
Exactly. It is obvious in her iconic suit, but it bleeds into the environment. The neon glow of Ruthie's sword is cast against the cold blues of the space stations. The hostile red laser fire Kara dodges contrasts with the blue of her cousin's Fortress of Solitude. In Bilquis Evely's comic art, red and blue are the colors of the irradiated leaves outside Kara's old home on Krypton.
That's a beautiful homage to the artist.
The director is using those specific colors to signal when Kara is being drawn into a psychedelic, introspective spiral of grief. The colors themselves mirror her psychological state.
The lighting, the environments, the physics of the alien suns. It is all serving a singular story about a woman drowning in her past, desperately trying to save a young girl from doing the exact same thing.
It's incredibly cohesive.
Which leaves us with a fascinating concept to carry forward. We began this analysis by noting our cultural expectation for superheroes to be flawless, well-adjusted gods.
We want them to have the answers. We want them to save us.
Right. But this deep dive proves that trauma is a universal equalizer. It does not matter if your cells process solar radiation to shoot lasers from your eyes, or if you can bench press a meteor.
No, grief breaks down the mechanics of the mind regardless of your physical strength.
Exactly. And if young Ruthye is potentially rewriting her own history, inventing an epic, bloody slaughter to justify her rage against the man who killed her father, it forces us to look inward.
It's a sobering perspective on how memory serves our emotional needs.
What stories do we tell ourselves to justify our own anger? How might our own subjective, grief-stricken memories be shaping our reality, casting ourselves as the righteous protagonist and everyone who wrongs us as an irredeemable villain?
That's a heavy thought.
Like an overpowered alien drinking alone in a trash spaceship, we are all just trying to construct a narrative that makes sense of the damage.
We really are.
Keep questioning the narratives presented to you, both on screen and in your own memory, and we will see you next time.